Hello, everybody. This is Carina from Break Fear, Find Freedom, and I just want to ask you a question. Let's say you're in business, right? And we're all looking for leads because we're all in business, we're all entrepreneurs, and we're always looking for leads. And it's always such a big thing. So what do? Do you use funnels? Do you go and do ads? What do you do? Now, Phillip Gibbs, my awesome guest today, has a very beautiful idea and something that I really can put myself behind because I love it. Referral marketing or collaborations or whatever you want to call it. Everyone's got their own name for it, but we're talking about collaboration. So how do you go out, find people that you can link with or collaborate with, and then work from there? But that's my take on it. Let's see what Phillip has to say about it. Hello, Phillip. How are you today?
Hey, Carina. Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. I'm really good, thanks. I hope you're well too. Awesome to be here. Thank you so much for the invite to join you and your community on your podcast. I'm excited for what we're going to explore here today. And thanks for that lovely little intro as well. I like it.
Thank you, Phillip. I didn't tell anybody who you really are. So let's go back for one little step and tell us a bit who Phillip Gibbs is. Who are you?
Yeah, sure. So as you've probably picked up by the accent, I live in the UK, very proud Englishman. And I've been around in running my own business since 2009. I'm married to my lovely wife, Polly. We live just outside Oxford in the UK. Lovely place to live. I love the UK, but I also love traveling. All my winter sports, put me on a slope with some skis on, and I am as happy as anything. Equally, put me on a car with an engine. I'm good with that too. So that's a little bit of me. But I think we're going to get into I'll leave the business bit out for now because I think we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Yes. Now, first, I want to say the idea of going down slopes, like I've never skied. And I was thinking, that's something that I want to do next year, because now, this year's over. Just go ski. It must be like such freedom.
Yeah. So I tell you why I got into skiing actually a little bit later than a lot of my friends. But I got into skiing probably in my mid-teens, late teens. But what I've very rapidly found is that it was such a brilliant way to switch off mentally from because what I guess I quickly learned, and this is a laugh, is if you don't think about what you're doing when you're out skiing, it can go wrong very quickly, and you probably end up with a few aches and pains the next morning. So shall we say? So what I quickly realised is that it's the kind of holiday where. You can go as a group, and skiing, I think, is a great leveler as well. A great, sort of creates a good environment around you and your friends to be around, and everybody else that's out there, because everybody's out there for a good time. But equally, it was such a mental switch off and change from studies or work or whatever it might be. And over the years, it's just served me incredibly well, because whilst it's physical. It's such a mental change that, I don't find that when I've been on a skiing break or a skiing holiday, I've come back really mentally refreshed, even though I might have a few bumps and bruises and a few aches and pains and stuff, particularly now. I'm 48 now, so things don't recover quite as quickly as they used to. But mentally much more refreshed than perhaps some other breaks where you might think, okay, it was lovely and relaxing, but as I'm sure a lot of people will relate to that are tuning in, when you, as an entrepreneur, and we're always thinking of ideas and things that we can do in our businesses or wherever it might be. And so for me, quiet holidays are actually not so mentally refreshing. They might rest the body, but not the mind. So I like the balance of the two across the year. Like, let's go skiing and focus the mind on something totally different and switch off from work. And equally, then maybe over the summer months, let's enjoy a little bit of physical relaxation as well. But I love skiing. I'd highly recommend it. And I mean, you live in a country where there's some of the best skiing, in the world. And equally, I would encourage you to come over to Europe as well, because the Alps are really good, beautiful places.
Yes. The Alps are always something that you think about when you go skiing. But of course, here there's a whole lot of places, yes. So yeah. I'm excited about that. And I'm just thinking it forces you to be in the present moment, right? You've got no choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Otherwise, something's going to go wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Now, Nat, so you obviously have a love for speed because you love the motorsport as well, right? So do you race cars or what do you do?
Yeah, so I have over the years. And something that I intend to get a little bit more, get back into a little bit more. But yeah, I am a big petrol head. If it's got an engine of any shape, size, or form, I normally absolutely love it. I guess that just comes from my father. Worked for Goodyear tires, actually. It's a big American brand. When they were sponsoring the Formula One racing back in the 70s and 80s. And so I grew up around motor cars, motorsport, and what have you. And I guess as a young boy and son to a dad who loved his motorsport as well, I just got into cars and what have you. And again, I'm probably another great mental switch off as a hobby and an interest. There's probably a bit of a theme here that I might not have uncovered before between my skiing and motorsport. But I think that's why I love it. Just I love the thrill of it all. Yeah.
So I have to ask McLaren, right?
Yes.
Obviously. Okay. I'm the Ferrari. Obviously. Okay. Just.
Of course, with your Italian background, La Ferrari.
You have to love Ferrari. And then I have to ask you another question before we go into the serious stuff, right? Have you ever driven, because you're close by, have you ever gone onto the Autobahn?
I have driven the Autobahn. So actually, my very first career was in engineering. And I worked as a test and development engineer for Land Rover, and then Jaguar, and then latterly Aston Martin. I've been fortunate to drive cars in all sorts of situations all around the world, from the sand dunes of Dubai to the autobahns of Germany to the to various racetracks, to ice lakes in Winnipeg. And Thompson in Canada. So I've driven lots of cars in lots of different situations, but the Autobahns, and they're a great way. I wish they'd do it here in the UK, but we have a feeble speed limit, and but probably a lot safer for
it. Wow, so that's very exciting. So you've driven all sorts of cars. Now that's exciting, right? And in all different areas.
Yeah, it was an awesome first. It's effectively I went there as a young boy, having never worked anywhere before, and got the most amazing sort of grounding in how a young boy matures into a young man, with some lovely mentors and I guess fairness, some challenging people too, along the way. But I really loved my time there, and I just got into a department that we were test and development, so we would run test programs on cars all over the world, and it was very much a younger man's department, because the whole job was taking cars and testing them in different parts. I mean, admittedly all over the UK as well, and Europe, but equally from Australia to South Africa to US to to Dubai and the Middle East, and all the extreme places that ultimately cars would be sold. We would go and test them there, and that was a lot of fun for many years. That was a lot of fun, traveling the world, testing cars. I mean, as a young man, I thought all my dreams had come true.
I'm sure as a young boy, as a young man, wow, this is a dream job, right? Travel and speed and cars. Wow.
Yeah, I had a lot of very envious friends at that at that point.
So, how did you go from cars to referral marketing or
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I was actually chatting to a couple of guys earlier today, and we were all sort of chatting about how on earth have we ended up doing what we do now, given where we started? Because actually, there was nobody around the table who was still in the, if you like, the specialism or the sector that they started off in. There was not one person around the table, and for me, it was. I mean, I loved my days in vehicle engineering, mechanical engineering, and whilst I was with Land Rover, I was really lucky that they were incredibly supportive of their young recruits. And ended up doing 2 degrees with them. Obviously, the mechanical engineering project management one, which was effectively part of my apprenticeship, part of my graduate program with them. But then I also did a business management and business management and marketing degree with them, because I realised that whilst I loved the testing the cars piece, like anything in the bigger corporate world, I wanted to chase the money because I was ambitious. I wanted to get on. And inevitably, I realised that to do that, I needed to expand my skill set and learn and gain different skills and grow in different areas, so that effectively, I could move up the chain in the business. But I got to a point where I was at 29. I was one of the youngest managers in the organization right across the company. And I started looking at not necessarily where my boss was or where his boss was, but where their boss was. And I was trying to think, well, that's probably the level that I could attain. If I really worked hard and carried on doing a great job, and over the years, I could probably look to achieve that kind of like chief engineer like level within the business. And the guy who was doing that job at the time in the channel that I was in was a chap called Mick Cameron, who was a really, really nice guy. But I remember looking at how hard he worked and how many hours and how much dedication he poured in. And of course, in a corporate structure, there's you've got a rough idea of what people earn when they're at various tiers. Only a guide, like a bracket of what they might be on. Yeah. And I remember looking at that and thinking, wow, that's not that much. I mean, it was a lot of money compared to what I was on at the time, right? But I remember looking at it and thinking, that's not that much money for the amount of time and effort that Mick was putting in, because he'd be in at 6 and he often wouldn't leave before 6. And, he might have multiple company cars, healthcare for the family, a really good pension, and loads of other big benefits that go with it. But I remember thinking it's not actually that much money that he was on at the time. And I was thinking, I was just curious that there would be a better way of generating that amount of, if that amount of sort of wealth, if you like, but in a different way that gave me more freedom and more choice. And so I'd been a manager for several years, and I mean, this was a time when literally nobody left. Nobody left the organization. There might have been redundancies occasionally, but quite frankly, it didn't matter if you could be really, really poor at your job, and nobody got sacked. You just got sidelined. You just got put in, shall we say, for want of a better term, more like passive departments or roles. Nobody ever got fired or sacked or underperforming or anything like that. and nobody left because it was perceived as you were on the, as long as you did a reasonable job, you got a good salary, a good payroll, you were never going to get fired. A lot of people were really happy in their lane, but I just felt that it was not going to fulfill me going forward. And I probably wasn't going to attain the level that I thought I could. At the speed I could. And even if I got there, I didn't feel it was going to give me the freedom that I felt I wanted to match, with that, because money isn't everything, right? That it was not going to necessarily match with the lifestyle that I wanted to lead. So I've always actually I've played golf since I was a really young boy as well, since I was an 8-year-old, again, led by my father, who played golf all his life as well. And that opened an opportunity for me, because I knew some guys who owned a golf and country club here in the UK, and the Cotswolds in the UK, beautiful setting. And they knew I'd played golf for many, many years. And fortunately, I got pretty good at the game, and had a load of contacts around the golf world from being pretty good, at a sort of a country, level. And they knew I'd done my business management marketing side. I'd done all the theory. I'd got zero practical application of it at that point in time. But they wanted somebody to come in and run the club for them, whilst they focused on actually growing and ultimately selling it. And they basically, on a round of golf one Sunday afternoon, they just pitched it to me and said, Phil, know you've got a good job and everything, but if you ever fancy coming across and, helping us run the Golf and Country Club, this is what we want to achieve. We've got a 4-year plan. We want to build it. We want to do some developments. We want to grow its asset value as much as we can. And then we see an exit on the cards, a sale on the cards. And it really sparked my interest, because they offered me a decent salary. I really liked the fact that there was a clear goal. There was a clear runway to what they wanted to achieve. And whilst it was a massive leap of faith from my side, or from their side and my side, probably more from theirs, in that I'd done all the study, I'd done all the theory, I'd got zero practical. So I knew how to run a team, I knew how to manage projects, I knew how to manage budgets. I was totally comfortable with that from my Land Rover background. And I got an opportunity to go off and do it. So I jumped at it and I said, yeah, come on then, let's do it. In 4 years, the business grew dramatically. And we were able to exit for more than they were wishing to, and during those 4 years, I just learned. It was my proper schooling, my proper university in business, I call it, because it was the practical application of everything, and the theory is sometimes very difficult to how it works out in real life.
Yeah.
But it was during that phase that we looked at the ways that we were marketing that business. And for me, the obvious thing that they weren't doing, which I thought they should, was using the power of their members to bring in more business, whether it be more individual members, whether it be more corporate golf days or group golfing events or conferences in the conference facility or hotel guests or weddings or whatever it might be, but use the power of the, some 800 strong membership that we had, use the power of that to leverage and grow the reach of the business in ways that we otherwise couldn't. And we just did a very simple sort of referral program for the members, and it worked incredibly well. And that's effectively how I stumbled across the power of referral marketing. And at that point in time, I'm going back to 2004 to 2008 were my years at the golf club. So I'm going back a long time. Sort of, Facebook was just about a thing, but Not really. Insta wasn't even around. Twitter, I don't think, was really even around. So, the ways of marketing businesses in those days was very much more old school, traditional, shall we say. But the referrals just worked incredibly well. And we just moved the program from working with the individual referral partners. One day I remember I was approached by a golf professional who wanted to effectively bring a group of golfers, a group of corporate golfers, and wanted somewhere to host a day that he'd been asked to do for a corporate golf client. And I remember thinking then, I mean, now we call them influencers, but at the time, influencers weren't a thing. And I remember thinking, oh, hang on a second, what if we expanded our referral program, and what if I incentivized the people that could bring us groups of golfers as opposed to one-to-one golfers? Because my members were bringing me referrals on a one-to-one basis, whereas the Mark brought us a group of 75 golfers, and I was like, okay, how many more of that? How many more of those types of people can I find? And then I realized when you brought the two together, when you've got the individual referral partners bringing you the leads when they could, and when you've got the influential partners bringing you referrals en masse, when you bolted those two things together, literally we stopped all other forms of marketing. We just didn't do anything else at all, because with the two together, they were just so powerful. Because the influencers brought you referrals en masse, which in turn became individual referral partners and just grew the database of those. You've got those people bringing you referrals. As soon as you got all that working together, it was just an absolute. It was a gold mine, really, to be honest with you. And the beauty was that we only ever rewarded people with any kind of referral incentive once we'd made the sale. Whether that was a booking for Sunday lunch, or whether that was, an annual golf membership, or a corporate golf day, or a conference booking, whatever it was, we only ever said thank you to the person that had brought us that once we'd taken the booking and once we'd got the money. So from a cash flow point of view, it just changed everything. Because before we were spending money on radio advertising and yellow pages, I think you call it Yelp in America. We were doing all that kind of traditional sponsoring the local rugby club, cricket club, all those kind of bits and pieces. We were doing all that, but it was all money out on the, crossing our fingers and crossing our toes. That we hope that this message will land with somebody and people will come back and use us. And of course they did. But when we got the referral side really working, we just dropped all that. And that had, that had another impact on the business, because it freed up capital that the business was using to market itself. It freed up that capital to be spent in different ways to help us grow. So we brought on more team members, or we did other things around the business that we wouldn't have been able to do if our marketing cash was still tied up. So on reflection, it was a really exciting journey. And when I came out of that, I just, when we sold that in 2008, or I think it was March 2009, the sale actually went through. I was just like, well, what would I like to do next? And I realized that running the business and what have you was nice and fun. But what really floated my boat, what I really loved, was the referral side of things, the relationship aspect of marketing. And a few people asked me, knowing what I'd done, a few people asked me if I'd go and help them. And I kind of stumbled into the kind of mentoring, consulting world, helping some other people with just what I'd done at the Golf and Country Club. Yeah.
I love that story, and I can just see it. I can just see all those connections and all those relationships. And you've probably still got a whole lot of those relationships now, and you've probably worked with each other through up to this point. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to go back, and any time during all this time, it sounds like so beautiful. Did you stumble on fear at any point?
Oh, yeah, like massively. So, I mean, I remember before I even started that, because I think we all have the inner voice, the monkey on the shoulder, I think, and I know it, quite frankly, I mean, I mean, I'm fortunate now that I know, and can call a lot of very successful people close friends, and I know that it doesn't matter what level in your career you're in, everybody has suffered from or still suffers from this little nagging voice of doubt that instills fear, because you doubt, uncertainty instills fear. And I
Yes, yes.
remember almost not going to the golf club because I was like, who am I to go and run a golf and country club? I'm this I think I was 30, something like that. So I was still really young in the business world, particularly going into a golf and country club that is typically the demographic, the age of the members was older than I was.
Yes,
And
yes.
all of a sudden they've got this young lad who's running the show. All my team members were younger than that were older than I was. So all my, if you like, I went in as the manager, all my first line, they were all a lot older than I was. Some of them twice my age. So I remember thinking, oh, should I even do this? It's like, who am I to do this? And should I do it? Should I not do it? And I guess what just pushed me through that was I'd got to, and I've always been able to like trust my gut. I guess that's something that I've held a lot of weight on over the years, is that my gut feel just felt that if I didn't do it, I'd regret it more than if I tried. So if I tried and failed, fair enough. But if I'd said no to the opportunity, it wasn't an opportunity that was going to come around again in a few years' time. It's like if I'd said no to it, that's it, gone. And there's no way that I knew anybody else well enough for them to give me an invite to go and run their club. So it was like, this is a one-off opportunity, and I am going to regret it way more than that if I don't do it, than if I do it and I fail at it. And I think a good friend of mine, Shah Wasman, she has a phrase that regret weighs heavier than failure.
Oh yes.
And I really like that. And I didn't know that phrase at the time, but it's one that really resonates with me now, because I think that's absolutely true. It's like, give it a shot, give it a go, and in fairness, if you've got good people, so a good network around you, which is my relationship thing kicking in again, I guess. If you've got a good network of people around you that are supportive, genuinely supportive of you, and don't project their fears or their outcomes on you, if you've got a genuine trusted, and you might only need a network of 2 or 3 or 4 people, that we really respect and value their opinion, and they will always champion what they feel is best for you, unconditionally. Then I think that really helps people push through that fear, doubt element, because we all need sounding boards around us at all times in our life, in all aspects of our life. I guess that was, I remember having one of the calls, I actually went and had a beer with my dad down the pub, and my dad's been a great mentor of mine over the years. And he was like, he's always been incredibly supportive. And he was like, you should go do it. You should go do it. Give it your best shot. You've got good people around you. They're going to want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
You know, the owners of the club, you know, they wanted to see it succeed. They wanted to support me. They knew exactly my background. I wasn't trying to pretend to be something that I wasn't. So yeah, I guess that support outweighed the doubt, the fear, and the desire to give it a shot. You know, made me take the step. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of times I've come across fear and stuff, but I guess what I've always found is that it's always good to have, like, whether they be mentors or that, like, trusted connections around you, that if you're trying to embark on something new that you've not done before, you know, then find somebody who's been there and done it already, and just ask them if they'd be prepared to, you know, help you, support you a little bit along the way. You know, be a sounding board for ideas, because I think often that's what's required to push through those thoughts of fear and doubt. Is if you know that you've got somebody that you can turn to that's been there and experienced it and achieved what it is that you're looking to achieve, then that kind of helps. And I've just carried that forward in all sorts of things. Like I wrote my first book purely on the basis that a really good mentor of mine had written 3 #1 bestsellers, and I always felt that I got a book in me, and she was like, just go do it. You know, what? Who cares? Who cares if you sell 1 copy? You know, why let a fear of failure just hold you back? If you feel that you've got that book in you and you feel that there's other people that would be interested in that, go write it. He'd written 3 #1 bestsellers, so who better to have at the end of the phone? You know, when I'm saying, well, you know, what do you think of this title? What do you think of this structure within the book? You know, whatever it might be. You know, Shah was just immediately able to turn to it and say, no, you want to do this, this, and this, and this is what I think of that title. And yes. So for me, mentors, whether it be business, life, health, wellness, wealth, relationships, whatever it might be, I think we can all get a lot and push past fear if we've got a good support and a good sounding board behind us.
Yes, I love that. It's always so much easier if you've got someone to hold your hand almost, and support you along the way. But I found that a lot of times we have to also move through the fear of asking for help.
Yeah.
That's the first step, right? To say, okay, can I ask for help?
I think for me, that's and it's a really good point you raised there, because asking for help, in my world, I see as a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness.
Yes.
And so many people see it as a weakness, as like, oh my God, am I supposed to know this? As like, I can't ask for help on this, I'm supposed to know it. But all that does is guarantee, all that thought path does is guarantee that you are going to stay stuck where you are.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, who cares if I look a bit stupid? Who cares if people think I did know this and I don't know it? I'd rather ask the question and understand it so I don't look stupid or in the future or stay stuck. I'd rather understand what the solution could be. And so now I'm hardwired now, and it didn't come naturally. But I'm now hardwired to think, okay, if I don't know something, I will hold my hand up and say, I've got no idea what you're talking about. Can you tell me?
Yes.
Or can you help me on this? Or whatever. Because I think almost like, you know, I know stupid's probably the wrong word, but I can't think of the better word to use at the moment. But, you know, stupidity or something is almost like just expecting to somehow miracle up a different outcome without being prepared to ask for help on something.
Yes.
If you don't know it, you don't know it. Who cares? It's like, okay, let's learn from that. Let me understand it, and then I can move forward.
Yes, I love that. I think we're also so afraid of what people think about us, and we have to get past that fear as well. It's like, oh no, what are they going to think? Are they going to think I'm stupid? And then what? So I like that. Just close your eyes and ask. It will take you out of that stuckness. It's beautiful.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Phillip, I love that. So now we're going to have to go just and tell us a bit about how you do your referral marketing. Now, we know it's really like just an overview. I know it's a relationship building and all that, but I mean, like how do I do it? How do I approach people? How do I know who to approach? How do I do it?
Yeah, sure. So, the core part behind referral marketing is relationships. So it's like anything in life. If it looks too good to be true, it normally is, and good things are earned, and trust and relationships and whatever are earned over time. So that's like the foundation that I like to get in place, because I think it's an incredibly powerful marketing technique and strategy, but it doesn't come for nothing, and it does require some time and effort from our parts to build up our network to a point where we've got enough people around us that we can look to for support and guidance, and ultimately then start to broach and think, well, I mean, good referral network actually starts with really understanding whatever product or service we sell, really understanding the customer that buys it or the client that buys it. Because the more and I'm not meaning like some of the avatar exercises that some of these people may or may not have even heard about or tried. It's not about what they eat for breakfast and how many kids they've got and what car they drive and all the rest of it. In my world, that's just totally irrelevant. It's really about three things. Understanding your customer is about understanding what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and what they're saying at and around the time when your product or service is the perfect solution or the perfect next step for them. Because if we can understand that, if you think about like, this is just tapping into like core level, base levels of like sort of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is like what they're thinking is the left brain, it's the logical side. So that if people are some people are very left brain focused, so they're very logical in their thought pattern. So if they're faced with a challenge or a problem or a situation in their life where your product or service would be a great solution, great next step for them, then how are they thinking about that problem? And have a little brainstorm around, write a little list out to get that clear. And then step number 2 is like, well, how are they feeling? So this is the right brain, senses, emotions, feelings.
Yes.
So for people that are wired that way, we all have a tendency, by the way, between left and right brain. We all have a bias in one particular direction. But we want to think about, how is being in the situation that they're in, how is that making them feel at the moment when your product or service is an ideal solution or ideal next step for them? And then finally, once you've thought about those two, we want to think about how they're going to verbalize that. What are they going to say? How's that going to come across? What are they going to say to the people around them? Which effectively becomes what we call in my world, we call them trigger phrases with the students that I teach. So we come up with trigger phrases, which effectively is the big signpost, the big waving flag that says, if somebody says this, then a referral to me is a perfect opportunity for them, because it's genuine. It's genuinely going to help them with the problem, the challenge, or whatever it is that they're facing. And whether this is in a professional services or physical product or digital product world, doesn't really matter, because it might be that somebody's tired and they're not sleeping so well at night, or whatever it might, and that might be all sorts of aspects. It might be the bed that they're on, it might be some therapy to help their thought patterns, or whatever it might be. So you can do it. Doesn't matter whether you've got a physical product, a digital product, whether you sell products or a service. This works throughout the board. So once we've got that kind of like core understanding of where our clients where our prospects rather are at, then we can start to look for the places where they congregate. So when somebody is faced with that kind of problem or challenge, where do they go to? Now it might be that they start listening to some podcasts, or it might be that they start to watch some videos on YouTube to help them, or they might do some searches on Google, or they might start to read a blog, or they might start to join a forum or a little membership site, or they might follow people on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or they might join some social groups on Facebook, or they might be a member of a group on LinkedIn, depending on your product or service. But there are always places where our ideal clients congregate when they're faced with a particular problem or challenge, because that's just what we do in society. We tend to, if we're struggling with something, we tend to, amongst ourselves, ask for guidance and look for support in a community.
Yes.
And therefore then the people that facilitate those communities are the people that become our ideal referral partners. Because if I'm the person that hosts that Facebook group, or hosts that podcast, or is the host of the YouTube channel, or I'm the person that's got this group on and these followers on Instagram, or whatever it might be, then I'm the person that's got the attention of these people already, right? Yes. And as long as what you're offering doesn't directly compete with the person that hosts that community, and often we can find that the groups and communities where it doesn't, then it makes perfect sense to sort of reach out to them and say, well, look, this is what I do. I feel that I've got some value that I could add to your community. Shall we record a podcast together, do a YouTube interview? Can I come into your Facebook group? Or I've got this little, email series that we could send out to them, or this free download that they could get, or I've got this free trial of my product that they could have, or this discount code that they could use to get my product for a trial with a money back guarantee, or whatever it might be. Yeah. Yes. There's ways that we can offer value to that sort of facilitator, if you like, that your ideal referral partner, and encourage them to share that with their community, because that's actually how we attract referrals en masse, as opposed to thinking that referrals is going to a networking meeting for breakfast or whatever it might be, and we're just picking them up one at a time. That way of thinking is, face-to-face work will always work, because people like people. Yes. But ultimately, that's a very time-consuming way of attracting referrals. And it's probably a bit, dare I say it, 1990s, as opposed to where we are now in the 2020s. It's kind of it's been outdated. It's been accelerated by the social platforms and the ways that we can communicate and reach people and engage with people online. Look at us now. We initially met on LinkedIn. We had a great chat on Zoom, and here we are now on a podcast. Sharing some insights and wisdom and knowledge, and with people that are tuning in.
Yes. Yes.
You know, we're not doing this for any commercial gain at all. But in time, who knows? You know, we might develop the relationship in that way if we feel that we can. It's about being prepared to play the long game. You know, and you know, delay the gratification, if you like, which I think is a problem in today's world, is that everybody wants everything now. And as a result, you know, I think we get a lot of a lot of quick growth and quick decline, and you end up on this sort of spiral of growth, rather than, okay, I'm just going to invest in solid stuff, build my relationships, with trusted partners, people that I know have the ear and trust of my ideal prospects. I'm going to go out, I'm going to add value to them, I'm going to add value to their communities, I'm going to build a relationship with them. And in time, there'll come a moment where that will turn good for me. And I'll be able to, you know, have referrals pass my way, or do some sort of special event where I pick up referrals from their community.
Yes. I love that. It's such a beautiful. It is the long game, but the thing is as well is that you're building those relationships. It's not fleeting, and it's like fly by night stuff. It's you build the relationships, and then who knows where. And even if it doesn't work out to anything, at least we're having a beautiful conversation, and maybe that's all it is, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's that connection. I love it. I love that whole concept. It's beautiful, and it's very new. It's not new. It's an old thing that people have been doing it for centuries, right? But I just love this because now there's more opportunity as well with the social platforms. And speaking now, I mean, you in the UK, I'm in San Diego. What are the odds?
Yeah,
so beautiful.
Exactly. I guess the bit, and I just sort of unpick this, that the bit that's really worked for me over the years is focusing on, you know, when we talk about capital in business, we often link it to money. Whereas I actually believe that relationship capital is, you know, when we focus on relationship capital, we don't have to worry about, you know, money, you know, cash capital. Yeah. Because ultimately the relationships will be the things that underpin all the sustainable growth in business. The most successful business people I know, of which I'm very fortunate to know some incredibly successful business people, all of them will put their stake in the ground and say, it's the relationship, it's my network that's allowed me to build the business I have, or to achieve what I have, the ability to pull on that when I need to, and that's what I think people want to use. The social platforms are amazing, and they've decreased the size of the world dramatically, because we literally can connect and communicate with anybody anywhere. And that's such an amazing opportunity for us. It's such a great age that we're living in right now, that we can tap into that, but not with the modern day fad marketing techniques, with some good old school long-term relationship building, and just see where that goes.
Yes. I love that. Okay, Phillip, on that note, where can people find you?
Cool. Well, I'm at the Phillip Gibbs on all the social platforms. That's so at the, and then it's Phillip, PhillipGibbs. So at the Phillip Gibbs, even I can't even say my name. At the Phillip Gibbs on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think in LinkedIn you probably just search Phillip Gibbs, and you'll find me on there. Founder of Referral Funnels, creator of the referral method, and author of Collaborate and Launch.
I love that. And of course, all the details will be in the description box. Thank you so much, Phillip. This was beautiful. And you know what? I could speak to you for another hour, but I know that time is of the essence. So thank you so much for that. I think we'll have to have a follow-up on this maybe in a few months, just because we can, right?
Yeah, sure. I'd love that.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you here on the show. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And check out Phillip. He's got awesome, awesome stuff. And you know what? Who knows what will come out of this? I love it. Thank you, Phillip.
I'm practicing what we preach, right? We're just building our relationship, and hopefully everybody that's tuned in has got some nuggets of wisdom or some light bulb moments out of it. And thank you so much for Carina. I've loved sharing those stories with you. It's been a real honor to come on your show.
Thank you. Thank you, Phillip, and thank you, everybody. And if you've got some other nuggets, let us know in the comments. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Phillip. Bye.